Hey, everybody.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy. How we doing?
Oh, we're awesome. We're awesome. We got Chuck Frank on with us today. It's Chuck's first appearance on the Zion Experience. This is episode 5. We're very excited to come to you today. We got a special guest we'll announce in just a few minutes, but we're glad to get everybody together. So we invited Chuck. You all will find out shortly why, and we're excited to have Chuck. Chuck's one of the co-founders with Zion. Most everybody knows that, but just out of formality, we'll do that. And then Jordan's back this week. Jordan, tell us what last podcast you had some life going on. I think we shared that with the group, but how was Taylor Swift's concert?
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be back. I missed last week's. We went to Taylor Swift in Nashville. Took my wife and daughter down there, and it was something. I'll tell you that. So, we got there about 5:30 down at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, and we left about 10:30 or 11. So it was a long performance, but she puts on quite a show. And there's definitely some crazy Swifties, as they're called, that are out there. I can't say that I'm yet one, but it was a pretty good concert.
What about Harps? Is Harper and Summer, are they both Swifties?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Harper, she was taking videos during it, and she has one video that she took of Taylor, and all you can hear is Harper singing at the top of her lungs, singing through it, all the different words and everything else. So, yes, she's definitely she's not as bad as some of the others that I saw there, but she's definitely a Swiftie. Summer's definitely a Swiftie, and but it was a good time. I'd recommend it if you get an opportunity to go.
A quick story about the Swiftie is that we were in Nashville, and one of our friends was with us, and I was giving them the story that Jordan and Harper and Summer were going to be at the Taylor Swift concert. So she had said, well, it won't be long, and they'll all be Swifties. And me being me, I'm like, I got it, but I wasn't, didn't really hear the Swifties. And wouldn't you know it, that I get a text from Jordan literally within 30 seconds that said, hey, I'm on my way back. I'm driving back, and I'm just listening to a little Taylor Swift music.
Yeah, right. Well, get myself prepped.
Dude, you're totally a Swiftie.
Yeah.
And he's got. Then I saw him with the hoodie with Taylor Swift all over it. So
right.
I appreciate her. I mean, the passion that her fans and her followings and that she's created, and we've got it in our vision statement: deliver memorable experiences, and that's an experience for your kids, your family, and it's awesome. So life's about good experiences and what we do on it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We found out that I need to talk a little less on some of these podcasts and get to our guest a little quicker and try to shorten it up. So this is the episode 5 of the Zion Experience. We're excited to have a guest. Today's episode is with MHEDA, with Liz Richards, and we're going to bring Liz on, and I'll give you a little background of Liz. Hey, Liz, welcome to the Zion Experience.
Chuck, Jordan. Hi, guys.
Hello, Liz.
Yeah. So let me properly introduce you, Liz, and I'll do probably a poor job, and it's just words, but there's so much more we could explain. I'm sure Chuck and the rest of the group can weigh in on this, but Liz is the Chief Executive Officer at MHEDA. It's MHEDA, what it stands for is Material Handling Equipment Distributors Association. It's a national trade association that was founded in 1954. Their offices are in Illinois, Vernon Hills. Liz has been here in her role or as at MHEDA since January of 1995. And Liz will tell us, she's got some news for us. This is Liz's last year at MHEDA. So we're all we were talking about it ahead of the podcast, a little sad about that. But Liz, we're going to celebrate some of that today. MHEDA's got a staff of 9 people. They manage a fairly large budget. They do a fabulous job. So Zion is part of MHEDA. They put on a lot of training events. There's so much. I'll let Liz describe it better than I will, but we're proud members of MHEDA. We've always been a supporter of it. Chuck is a past chairman of the board / president. They've changed a little of the title, but Chuck served in that capacity for a while. We'll talk about that today. It's about 600 companies in North America are part of MHEDA, and they handle everything. It's everything from integrators to companies that are manufacturers, and it's for material handling systems and related technologies. And Liz reports to the board. She's responsible for the management and just the general direction of MHEDA including the implementation of all strategic initiatives, development of member programs and services. And prior to working there, I think, Liz, you had a little background. You worked for a couple of years, 8 years or better, in the healthcare industry. So with that, we'll just turn it over to Liz. And Liz, how would you like to open up? Or did I miss anything on introducing?
No, you didn't miss a thing. I'm honored to be here, and I'm super excited for you guys and Zion Solutions Group, and known you for a long time. Known Chuck's family for a long time, which has been a real pleasure. And how old is Summer now?
Summer is 33 now. Yeah, and Harper's 11.
Oh, wait, I got them mixed up.
You got them mixed up. Yeah, because you got to remember. So we'll talk about.
Don't tell Summer I asked that question.
Oh, it's the first thing I'm going to say, Liz.
Jordan's in trouble. He's like, I don't know how old Summer is.
Yeah.
Well, I had to think from it. I had to remember how I'm getting to the point to remember how old I am, and then I can figure out how old Summer is.
Gosh, that's
Liz got to meet Harper because we kind of grew up. She's known me since before I even entered the industry. I think when we first met, Liz, I was probably still in high school when we first met. So I've known Liz for quite a while.
Yeah, Chuck was president, chairman of the board, we call it now, in 2011. And one of the things that I'm doing, so I write a column for the MHEDA Journal, and I always struggle with it. Chuck, you probably remember those days. You had to write 4 columns, a quarterly magazine. And, trying to pull these topics out of the sky is difficult. And since this is my last year, and it will have been 28 years that I've been with MHEDA, what I decided to do is each quarter write about 7 years, the first 7, the second 7, the third 7. So I'm on the third 7 right now, Chuck, and that's you. So 2009 to 2015. And it's been funny, Duncan, of course. And so every time the column comes out, Duncan Murphy, who was our president in 2009, he writes me this long email. Well, here's what I remember all those years. So he's kind of critiquing it. But it's been really fun to kind of look back and see all that we've accomplished. The introduction that you gave, Jim, I mean, you kind of explained it all, who we are as an organization, originally founded by forklift distributors. And at the time, manufacturers pretty early on became part of MHEDA. They were called the Allied companies, which rubbed them the wrong way. So they're called supplier associates. But it's a home for everybody. It's not just, although sometimes the perception still exists that it's primarily forklift distributors, but it's not. We've got a pretty even mix now of integrators, storage and handling companies. And now, of course, there's a lot of overlap, as you guys have certainly experienced with forklift distributors and integrators kind of coming together. So, but it's been a wonderful experience. We've got an amazing team. You talked about Nashville. The convention in Nashville was so much fun. Really great speakers. I hope you guys enjoyed them. Clint Pulver, who was our keynote speaker, was just amazing, I thought, with the drummer and all that.
It was very cool. It was just a neat way he brought his drums into it and his energy, and just a neat guy. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And talking about mentors, the mentor that he had that knew that he needed an outlet and helped him figure out what that outlet was. And now he's, super successful at drumming and speaking. And, we had the drumsticks under the table for everybody to do the drum line. That was super cool. So yeah, I loved it. And Ken Grumbach, I don't know if you guys heard the Tuesday morning demographer. We'd had him once before. That was a little bit of an eye opener. He kept saying, don't kill the messenger, but this is what's happening in our world. And we do struggle with, it's a very male dominated industry, not a lot of diversity. We're making some strides, but it's taking a while. And that's going to be something for my successor to certainly continue on trying to tackle, if you will, and bring more diversity into the industry.
Yeah. Back to Clint. So Clint, I think MHEDA is the convention. My favorite part is 2 parts. One, I love seeing everybody. I just think it's a great networking event. There's just such good people that are associated with MHEDA. The staff and your team do such a phenomenal job. I'm sure there's tons of work that goes into it, and it's top notch. It's run really well. We've been to several conventions and it's one of my favorites. But I always love the keynote speakers. So I love the networking aspect and the keynote speakers. And Clint, I went up afterwards. I'm not really a shy person, Liz, and I do talk a whole lot, like Chuck was saying earlier. But he was a wrestler, and he was from Utah, and so he knows Cal Sanderson, which is probably the premier program in college wrestling today, and he's probably the greatest. At least he might be the greatest wrestler out of the United States. He was a 4-time undefeated NCAA champion, but what he was saying is, I've got a son. My son's James. We call him Bubba. If you're in the South, he's got a nickname, but James, and he has the wiggles just like Clint does. He can't sit still. He's got wiggles. He's got all this energy, and it's good energy, but he draws all the time with both hands. And I'm just sitting there. I told my wife, Holly, it's like we've got a little Clint at home. So I took the drumsticks home. I gave them to my son, and I ordered a 3-piece drum set that's sitting in my living room right now.
I love that.
And we're going to try to find James. It may not work, but he's got a creative side. I never learned how to play any instruments. It's a regret. I would love to play an instrument. The piano. I think, Jordan, you played a little piano, but we're going to try to get James a little drum set. And I'm going to send Clint. We connected on LinkedIn. I'm going to send him a picture of James playing it for the first time from over the weekend. But yeah.
You know, that's what MHEDA is all about, really, is connection. So you mentioned networking, but I mean, to make that connection, that very personal connection with a member of your family because of something that you heard or you saw that MHEDA produced, I just love that. That's a great testimonial. That makes me feel wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch gears on you, but here's
Harper
right here. That's when it was Megan and Chris's wedding. So there she is, all grown up. Isn't that crazy?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So Megan's now married.
She got married October 15th of last year.
Oh,
Jordan was the officiant. He married him, which was like one of the coolest days of our life for Kathy and I. Such proud parents.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine. Congratulations. That's so cool. That's awesome.
And then one other quick story about Duncan, Liz, is that we were at the closing party and Duncan and Roseanne, we kind of hung out with them all weekend, and they're such neat people. You know, you put them together. So Roseanne was out with Kathy and Lori and Eileen and whatever, and Kelly, and we hung out with Duncan, and we went across the street and had a drink with them one night. And then at the closing party, we just walked up, and the two of them were kind of just out there dancing, and it was the last song. So the whole group, we all came up and we got on the dance floor, and we just kind of got around them and said, you know, we're here for you guys. You guys are just some of our favorites.
Oh,
and both Duncan and Roseanne just kind of had some tears rolling down, happy tears, right? I mean, just rolling down their cheeks. So just those are the kind of people that you would have never met, known without, you know, MHEDA and being involved in it. So just a story after story after story. You get them. But,
totally. Yeah. I mean, that's been the greatest joy for me is all the different people that I've met. I feel like I have so many friends as a result of working at MHEDA all over the country. And we've talked about this so much on the board that it's really a family, the MHEDA organization, where, you know, if you have a child that's going off to another part of the country for whatever reason, you know that there's people you can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, you know, they might need help, or, you know, whatever it is. It's just unbelievable how close knit everybody is and how willing to help. And it's all about relationships. It's such a cool industry. And, you know, I never knew that it existed. I think a lot of people who've gotten into this industry never knew that it existed. We still struggle with that. It's an industry that's hidden in plain sight. I guess if there's a silver lining to COVID, you know, bringing automation and supply chain into the news, it's helped a little bit in that regard. But it's such a cool industry. And for you guys, I mean, anybody who is an integrator, you get to see so many other industries that you're impacting. So it's always different. It's always something new and exciting, and you learn what other industries' issues are and how you can help solve them and provide them with the great solutions that you all provide. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I'm going to miss it for sure.
Well, the other thing that's so cool about the organization, and I tell Jimmy and Jordan and Drew this all the time, is that I think all of us in life, we think that we have some kind of secret sauce and we can't share, and how we do things and how we earn and close business and how we execute contracts. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just the people that you know and how you treat people, right? And it's just still all about relationships. But with MHEDA, you know, when you first get involved, it seems like you're going to be in there with your competitors and some really smart, talented, great people and companies and organizations. And the quicker that you can just let your guard down and just realize they're just humans and they're really good people and they're super talented, man, it's by far been the organization and the group of people that certainly have provided the guidance, the leadership, the mentorship, you know, for me personally and with the organizations that I've been involved with. So it's really great to know your competitors. It's really great to know who the leadership team of those organizations are, and then just the synergy of getting together with them and just talking about things and what have you. It's just so many good people, so many just people that are so successful, that are so willing to help you and give you little nuggets of advice to help you. And as you progress in life, so many things that you just didn't need to worry about that just weren't important that you thought were. Just a cool group of really great people. So, and
well, you've been a pioneer in that respect, Chuck, because our very first Automation Solutions Conference, you and Jordan were speakers. And, you know, you've always been willing to share your knowledge. And you're right, it raises the bar for the whole industry when you're willing to share best practices. And you'd rather have a professional competitor than somebody that's going to compete on price or something else. And you've been a proponent of that for a long time, and we're very grateful for all that you've given to MHEDA over the years, not only as our chairman, but, you know, all the times you've been involved in our sessions and spending 11 years on the board or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Really
Jordan, he did a much better job than I. He's now getting invitations to come back to MHEDA, and I just was in the right place at the right time to be a part of it. Otherwise, I'm just kind of a thing of the past. So,
well, no, you're not. But around your family.
I told her, Jordan, that we spoke at one of the executive exchange, which was a breakout meeting special. It was in Nashville as well, I believe. And I told her how I was monitoring on my Garmin, how my heart just went shoot, and Jordan's sitting over here just cool, everything's great. And I'm like, I need something to where I can look down and read my notes and have at least bullet points.
Yeah, we were at the executive idea exchange in Nashville.
Yes.
And the story is, you know, they break you out the different round tables. So Jimmy and I were kind of like across the room from each other in this conference room in the hotel. And I could look over at Jimmy and I could just see him just prepared and looking at notes. And I'm sitting there listening. I'm engaged with the speaker, and Jimmy's down here. And I'm like, well, maybe I should look at my notes. And I'm like, that's okay. I'll just go with the flow. We get up there and Jimmy's like, I need a podium. I need something. I got to have something in front of me. So he went up on stage, got the podium, brought it back down so he'd have a place
Rebecca
to rest.
Wasn't happy with me. She's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, Rebecca, listen, this is happening. This podium is going on the stage.
Rebecca hasn't already planned, or you're in trouble. I mean, that's a problem, including me.
But you did a good job of that. That was a good. We talked through software and how it's changing in the industry and where to look. But he did a nice job.
Listen,
Jim,
we all have fears.
Nobody would have known that you were nervous.
No.
You did
we were talking about
job.
that. Your experience, right? It's you don't know, and we all. I believe you got to kind of knock those walls down in life sometimes. And I've done about 5 cents. It's getting easier, but well, let's move along real quick, and I'll try to facilitate a little bit. So before we come off of MHEDA, I think you all shared like the connections, the events, that what you can do. Liz, would you like to plug anything of how can a company benefit from joining MHEDA? And then we want to spend some time on Liz and talk about your career and what's going on with you. And just we'll wrap the talk up with that. But how can a company benefit from joining MHEDA if you had to give your 3-minute elevator speech?
So number one, and we've already kind of touched on this before I go into, we have this conference and that conference because we have a whole bunch of conferences coming up. It is really building the relationships with the rest of the membership. That is where the real value is. And it's very hard to put that in an elevator speech, if you will. I mean, Chuck knows from all the discussions that we've had at the board level, it's hard to really explain that and you have to give your time in order to reap those benefits. So, for example, when we're at a ProMed or we're at a MODEX and somebody will want to join, say, for example, a manufacturer will want to join, and they think of it as, oh, I'm going to join and this distributor network is going to miraculously fall into my lap. That's not what MHEDA is all about. And I'll literally talk somebody out of joining if that's what they think. That I'll tell them, if you're not willing to participate in the events, meet the other members of MHEDA, get engaged with the board members, then it's a waste of your money and it's a waste of our time, because you're gonna drop your membership after a year. Same thing with somebody who might be considering exhibiting at the exhibitor showcase during the convention. It's not a lead generation by any stretch of the imagination. It's there to build relationships, to potentially grow new relationships, but to strengthen the relationships that you already have. And somebody like Brian Newworth, for example, from Unex, I mean, he knows that. He's there every year. He's not there to pick up a whole bunch of new distributors. I mean, maybe, but he's there really to support the organization that is there to help raise the professionalism of its constituents. And he gets that. So the people that come to the showcase and just come for those 3-4 hours on that first day and then leave, I mean, they've missed out of tons of networking opportunities, number one, but also great speakers that we have on the second day. So, I mean, that's really the main thing. And I think people make the mistake of not realizing that this is a relationship building industry, and you will quickly be singled out if you're competing on price, or you're competing on something that's not built on providing solutions and relationships with your customers. You're going to have customers for life. I'm sure you guys do. So, that's the big thing. And then getting into, the actual programming, we have a lot of great programs coming up. We started probably back, I think, Chuck, when you were on the board, these regional networking summits. We used to call them lunch and learns. We're going to be at a distributor location in Boston in June. And that's similar to the Idea Exchange. It's a couple of speakers. Culture-Wise is one of them. Miller Resource Group is another, kind of tying on to that whole human factor theme that we had at the convention. That's so important right now. That drives everybody's business, and making sure that your employees are happy and supported. So that's the first event that we've got coming up. And then our emerging leaders, we've got our Women in Industry, which has grown by leaps and bounds. It's really exciting to see how the Women in Industry program has come together. And then we have an online program going on right now for women in industry on communication skills. So lots of different things happening. And then we have webinars all throughout the year. And it's my swan song. So
yeah,
from now till December.
Liz, to piggyback on what you're saying, again, just from the perspective of a member, it's like the other things that you can't paint the picture, you can share, you can talk about, but I think that there's a lot of members, and there's only a few that have the fortunate opportunity to be on the board or on the EC or what have you. But because I don't, it's so hard to what's involved and it's a pretty big commitment. There's a lot that goes on. And I think that MHEDA as an organization does such a great job of keeping things optimistic, upbeat, positive, good news, educational, great people. But when you get into these board meetings and some of these EC meetings, the amount of work, again, that goes into them, and what you and your team do as it relates to the organization and the disciplines of starting early in the morning and going until, late afternoon, and the facilitation of just what you do and how you go through it, and what's the next 3 to 5 years look like, and critical success factors, and what are you seeing and what trends, and how do you take the message from the economist and tie that in, and then all of that is done to for the overall success of MHEDA and its members. And then the EC meeting is more of a long range planning and really thinking out, and where do we see ourselves and how do we stay relevant. And so there's just so much behind the scenes that takes place from a great group of people. And then the team, how they just get that out to the members. It's free. It's just available information. And the more engaged you are, the more you learn, the better you are, the more disciplines there are. You can take it back and you can operate and run your own business with those same set of principles and the strategic journey that MHEDA is on and what have you. So it's not really a plug for MHEDA as much as it's just fact and truth based, that there's so much more that you can get from MHEDA if you pour into it. And the 10 or 15 days that you spend through the course of the year being on that board or that EC group or a combination of both is, man, it's crazy. How fast it goes, how many great people you meet, and then how much you learn and can take back and really, improve your organization and stay focused. So it's just a repeatable, proven, successful cycle. So again, to you and your team and what have you, there's some big shoes to be filled, but the groundwork's been laid. So that's just another plus of what MHEDA has.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think
strategic planning process, I think, has been one of the most successful things we've ever done. Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I was just gonna. You can imagine, Liz. You know that I like to talk. Imagine myself, Jimmy, and Chuck in the same room together. It's a battle at times.
It's who gets to the mic first.
The four of us.
Jordan, can you hold on? I want to say
right. You see, this is what happens.
I have the ability to mute everybody if we need to.
What I was going to say is I've had a unique experience through MHEDA, from being not in the industry and as a family member, to being in the industry, to being a part of MHEDA, to talking at MHEDA, to going to the conventions. And one thing, Liz, and this is a prop to you and the team and the association, is I'm looking at your mission statement, right? And it's very difficult to live out your mission statement, but your mission statement is to enhance each member's success through superior programming in the area of benchmarking, networking, and education. And I think those three things are extremely evident in any convention, regional networking, MHEDA Net, whatever it may be, that everything you do, you have a benchmarking report that you report every year. We use that, right? Networking is a given. You're going to meet so many people that are not only, people that maybe they could be suppliers, but you're going to meet a lot of peers that do what you do and could be considered competitors. But when you're there, you're not. You're learning from each other. And that is a very unique thing that you don't see anywhere else. And then education. One thing that I like that you guys do that I haven't seen anywhere else is when you have a really good speaker, you'll invest time in that speaker to develop a custom program specific to MHEDA and their members. You had an individual by the name of Ryan Avery, and he had a talk, and he was fantastic. And I took part in his, they were a 10 or 12 week program. Yeah. And there's a lot of things that I do today that were learnings from him. The biggest thing, and everyone does this that went to him, is you don't use the word just. Right. That's the one right. And I, to this day, every email, every text, every conversation I have, and it makes a big difference. So I think that's just a prop to you and the team that you not only had developed a mission statement, but you guys are living it out. You're doing it. It's very clear to me, and I'm sure all your other members.
I love that. I love Ryan Avery. Oh my God. Yeah. RyanAvery.com.
Yeah. Phenomenal speaker. I need to work on my just, because I have
you don't
just in
how often
every
you
email
and use the word just all the time. And I'm just like you, Jordan. I go back and I take it out and it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
He's a fantastic communicator. I have sent so many referrals to him that every time I do, he'll send something to me. Like I have this cool bonsai plant that he sent about a month ago because he got some big job that I had referred for him. And he's just like, thank you. And handwritten notes. It's always a handwritten note from him.
Yep.
It's always a very personal thing from him. He's a great speaker. You know who else is a really good speaker is Amy K. Hutchins. She's another one. She was more involved in women in industry, but she also facilitated a board meeting for us, and she's a leadership speaker. Amazing. There's some great speakers out there, and we take a lot of time to really vet these speakers. And Anna Marie and I are the ones that generally select the speakers for the convention, and we pretty much hate everyone. We'll give them 30 seconds, and we're like, nah. It's really bad.
Well, you can tell that the speakers are top notch. I mean, you all do great, and so I'm going to move us towards Liz a little bit, but let's take a final moment for MHEDA. If you want to join MHEDA, MHEDA.org, MHEDA.org. Get on, get involved, and I think the general how I would wrap this up is you're only going to get out of MHEDA what you put into MHEDA. And the ability to get out of it's just, there's a vast amount that you can grow professionally, personally, and just as an individual from MHEDA. And just kudos to you, Liz. So we're going to transition into, how does Liz Richards get into the material handling industry? What inspired you to be at MHEDA? And I'm sure there's a story there. And then just walk us through. We've kind of danced around what's going on with you personally and in your professional career, and just take us through a journey with Liz. How does Liz in 95 end up at MHEDA?
Well, I mentioned this when I was on stage. It's all because of who you know, right? It goes back to networking. So for 8 years, I was first the marketing director, then the building director at a retirement community. It was very early stages of when they had these continuing care communities with independent living and nursing care and all that. So we were sort of in the beginning stages of those that have now cropped up all over the place. It was a really exciting time for me. I loved my job. Katie, my daughter, who also works at MHEDA, was born while I worked there. And I became really good friends with our attorney, who ended up leaving private law and eventually found his way to MHEDA. And he was hired as Dan Riley's replacement. Dan had been there for 25 years. And Tony contacted me and said, Tony was brilliant, is brilliant. Very good at organizational restructuring. MHEDA had been known as a good old boys network, and a lot of members had dropped. And so Tony was brought on and really kind of opened the eyes of the board and changed a bunch of things organizationally. And Tony and I had always kept in contact with one another. But Tony was introverted. You cannot be introverted and run a trade association. So he contacted me and said, I want you to come and meet with me. I'm going to leave. I want you to meet with the search committee. And I was like, what are you even talking about? What's an association? What's material handling? And the convention was in Las Vegas that year in 1994. So I came into Tony's office. Katie was like 6 months old. And they had the convention brochure sitting on his desk. And on the brochure was these showgirls, picture of Las Vegas showgirls. And I'm like, wait, what is this? I don't get it. But anyway, long story short, I met with the search committee. I really wasn't that interested in the job. I was very happy where I was, but they offered it to me. And the one person who really convinced me to take the job was my mother, who's now 96. And she said, you're crazy if you don't take this job, even if it doesn't work out. And the experience that you'll get, what you're going to be exposed to, just take it, do it. And Tony believed in me so much that he told the board, they loved Tony. He told the board that if she doesn't work out in 6 months, I'll come back and I will mentor her during that time. And the rest is history. I mean, Tony just kind of threw me in the deep end, and I'll never forget that first board meeting. You want to talk about nerves. But Bill Whitcroft, God rest his soul, was an amazing guy. He was on our board. He lived in Wisconsin. Babish was the company. I don't know if they're still Babish. I think they changed their name. I think you knew him, Chuck. But anyway, he met me at an oasis in between Wisconsin and Illinois. And we have these board books, these big binders of everything MHEDA's got going on. And he went through it page by page with me and made me feel so much more comfortable. But literally, I was hired on January 3rd. My first board meeting was February 10th, and it was held in Chicago during ProMat. So in addition to the board meeting, and we had an objective-based selling seminar with Gary Moore going on. So board meeting, ProMat, objective-based selling. I walked into that room and I was like, oh my gosh, please don't ask me any questions. Please don't ask me any questions. I was like, ah. But walking into ProMat, one of the first people who stepped out of his booth and could not have been nicer and more helpful was George Prest. And he owned Press Track at the time. And he just said, I'm George Prest. I'm so happy for you. If there's anything you need. And that's really what this industry has been like. I mean, everybody. I mean, here's me. I'm 33 years old. I'm a woman in a very male-dominated industry. And one particular member who we became very good friends, Howard Bernstein, was our president in 1965. And they told me when they hired me, they offered me the position, we're going to call Howard and let him know what we're doing. And Howard was very upset that they hired me. Why would you hire a woman? Why would you hire somebody with no experience? This is a bad idea. But Howard and I became really good friends in the not too distant future after that. One reason why the Chicago Tribune did an article on me about, being in this male-dominated industry, and they wanted to do pictures at a dealership, so I took them to Howard's. And that was like the first year. So it was the Sunday Chicago Tribune, and Howard's dealership, and Howard and I are splashed all over so, he liked me a lot after that.
That's awesome. That's a good story. Yeah. Yeah. And I have empathy for, we've got a couple females we enjoy and look for and seek out talent, because I think females just in this industry, your all's perspective, your all's ability to help problem solve. I think it makes a good balance. And that's what you've got to have diversity. And we've always been open to it, but I've been in industry 25 plus years, and it is a very male dominated industry, and it's not a tough walk. It's getting easier. I've got 3 little girls at home and 1 boy, Liz. So I want my girls to be able to do whatever they want to do. That's their passion in life. And if that happens to be building rack and putting in conveyor, then I want that opportunity for them. But
Absolutely.
That's an inspiring story. So what's at risk of sounding kind of cheesy on we didn't tell. So tell the story of what's happening in December. And I think the audience will want to know on it.
Yeah, this is my last year. It'll be 28 years when I retire. And it's been bittersweet for me. The convention was very emotional for me. But as I had shared with you guys earlier, so I've been the primary caregiver for my aging parents. My father has since passed away. And my mother, who has been such an inspiration in my life. I moved her to Illinois from North Carolina. She was living down there by herself after my mother passed. And when COVID happened, I didn't want her there without family. So moved her up here. And I have been really involved in caregiving. And it's been a challenge to do both that, which is very full-time. We're very family-oriented. And also to give MHEDA the justice that it deserves. Now, having said all that and all that caregiving that's been going on for so long, the MHEDA team is amazing, and has never, ever let any ball drop, ever. They are so good at their craft. Every single one of them are so dedicated to this association. The board feels very confident in all of them. They all exude confidence, but they also know that I am their biggest cheerleader, and I'm there to help them every step of the way. Could never have been the caregiver for my family if it wasn't for them. And so I don't think I'm stale yet, but I also don't want to get stale and burned out. So I'd rather step aside and allow somebody else to now take the reins and, let Katie, who's going to be 6 years at MHEDA in November, kind of grow a little further under somebody else's mentorship. And she's excited about that. I will say, though, going back to something that you said, Jim, about women in the industry, women are such great collaborators, relationship builders, and problem solvers. And this industry is all of those things. If you have those skills, this is a perfect industry for women. And to see these students come to the convention, many of them women, is just super exciting. And I'm really happy that the board took a chance on me, because I'm not trying to give myself any accolades, but just by having me in that position, I think it kind of helped women say, hey, this is okay for a woman to be in this industry. And that makes me really happy.
I was going to ask you, what's your proudest accomplishment? I think I might know the answer, but what would be, as you look back on your 28 years, Liz, what's the proudest accomplishment you've had?
I mean, I guess just the fact that I've been there for 28 years, and I think we've done some really amazing things. To have Katie involved, that makes me super proud. I still remember the meeting when we were looking for somebody to do some business development. And, Katie was 10 months old when I started. The board was so gracious about me bringing her with me when we went to board meetings. So she always felt like she had a seat at the table, even when she was, 2 and 3 years old. And so it was Scott Lee when I guess you were probably at that executive committee meeting, Chuck, I would think, maybe not. And Scott said, gee, Katie would be great at this job. And she was already working. She had graduated college. She was living in Arizona. And they said, do you think she would want it? And I said, I don't know. I'll ask her. And she did. She wanted it. And so we originally were calling it business development, but we're really not a sales organization. We don't like to think of ourselves as selling MHEDA. And so her title changed to member engagement, because that's super important for us. I mean, we talked about that earlier too. If you're not engaged in MHEDA, you're not going to get anything out of it. And so we track the level of engagement of members. And when they're at risk, we really try to get them to do something to get more engaged. So that was her original title. Now she's a membership manager, and she loves it. Talk about the gift of gab. Bring Katie on your podcast. She won't get a word in edgewise. But so she's been excelling in her position. I'm super excited about that. So
that's amazing. We're getting close to the end, so I'll give Jordan or Chuck a chance. Do you all have any questions you all want to ask about the career, or any final thoughts? Chuck, you've obviously been involved in your MHEDA journey with Liz, but any final thoughts before I ask and wrap up and ask the final question?
I would just say, Liz, congratulations for your 28 years, 56 board meetings, 28 or 26 or 28 EC meetings. You've met a lot of, you've had quite the cast of characters that you've had to deal with and work with. So that is an accomplishment, right? Just keeping peace in the family. So, but job well done. We'll talk before the end of the year, but congratulations to you, to your team, for all the success, and thanks for all that you've done for all of us over the years.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would echo that. And I know, Jimmy, you got one last question, but it's definitely gonna be a little different, Liz, without going to a MHEDA event and seeing you there. So I'm sure hopefully you'll still come to some of them, maybe just not in the same capacity, but
Yeah.
it's, whenever I am at ProMat or Modex or a convention or regional networking, usually I see you and I remind myself that I'm at MHEDA, right? So I think you represent a lot of it. And I would say the same thing as Chuck. Congratulations on 28 years. And it is cool. I'm sure it's cool for Katie to get to work with you. It's cool for me to be able to work with my dad. So it's a cool thing. It's a hard thing at times, but it's a lot of fun, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm sure Katie would say the same. So I'll leave it with that.
Thanks, you guys. And I've been so fortunate to have so many amazing mentors like you, Chuck. And think about the education that I've had working with a different chairman every single year for 28 years, and their management style and their leadership skills. It's been, you couldn't pay to have an education like that. It's been just a wonderful experience, and I've made great friends and consider you guys my friends. So thank you.
That's awesome. So we've extremely enjoyed the conversation, Liz. Thank you for coming on. We've got one final question and then we'll wrap up. We're trying to do a little shorter podcast now because we all do talk so much, but I have not known you as long as Chuck and Jordan, but every time I've been around you, just would congratulate you, would encourage you to have something that makes you get out of bed. Sounds like you've got those things post-retirement, have that next passion you want to look for. When my dad retired, I said, I'm super happy for you. We got to have something that makes you get up, and you got to have that next step in life, that next passion in life. I'm sure you'll find it. And when I think of MHEDA, I think of you and your staff and just the job that you all do. And so MHEDA, I think, will always be part of you, and you'll always be part of MHEDA. And so just congratulations on that. And
Thank you.
The final question is, after 28 years in the industry, and you've kind of already answered this a little bit, but just answer it the way you see fit, is what is one thing that you wish you had known earlier in your career? Maybe a tidbit
I
of
did
wisdom.
think about this. So this is kind of a very tactical, kind of a dumb answer, but it's been plaguing me right now. Back 28 years ago, we didn't have email. And, everything is done on email now. So I have my personal life so intertwined with my MHEDA email. So trying to untangle that right now is a nightmare. So anybody who's, in the middle of their career, if you've got your personal email tangled up with your work email, don't. There is a bit of advice.
Yeah.
Chuck, you've probably dealt with that. It is horrifying So, you know, we didn't have email. Gary Moore and I laughed about that. We planned the 1997 convention. He was convention chair on email. That was the first time we ever really had email. So everything in my life has been now on MHEDA.org. Terrible. So I know it's kind of a dumb answer, but I was thinking about that. I'm like, gosh, if there's one thing I wish I knew back then, I would have had a whole separate email life.
I don't think it's dumb. When we're interviewing interns, we support interns a lot. And I did that at college. So I went to the University of Louisville, and my email, everything, I went to college. I graduated in 99. So it was kind of the beginning of email. We didn't really use it at high school, but my first email was all at louisville.edu. And then when I graduated, and then they shut my account down, and I had so many accounts set up. And so I have students that are interviewing, and one of the pieces of advice I give them is like, look, it's unsolicited, but get you a Gmail, get you a non-work, non-school related email and sign up through that. And
so
I think that's great practical advice.
Yeah.
It seems dumb, but it's the small things in life that make life easier sometimes.
Yeah,
So I think it's a great tidbit of wisdom.
Attached to it, everything. Yeah. So I try to do a little bit each day. So anyway,
just keep it and have them forward it to lizrichards@gmail.com. It's probably not available now, but
yeah. I do have a Gmail. Yep. So if you want to get me after December, lizrichards1217@gmail.com.
There we go.
That'll be me. Or that is me.
Well, as we come to a close, I'll just anybody have any final comments? And I've really enjoyed this episode. I enjoy hearing about people and their career and all that you've accomplished, Liz, and obviously a big supporter and proponent of MHEDA and associations in general. But any final comments, anybody? If not, it's been an awesome episode.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
I just say, Liz, thanks for giving us some time out of your busy day and being on with us. So it's crazy how fast 49 minutes went by, but really enjoyed it.
It's been fun. Highlighted my day.
There you go. All right.
It was ours too. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
Good.
All righty. We'll see everybody next time.
Okay. Thanks, guys.